You're listening to The Wedding Whisperer with Sarah Burton of Simply Love Studio in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm here with Doug Smith and Gwen Blond with Doug Smith Designs and Events. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to talk all things wedding planning.
Hey, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. We like talking about weddings too.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about your background in wedding planning and flowers. How long have you been in the industry?
Back in probably 2005, 2006, I worked at a local bank in Lexington, and I started dabbling with flowers with no particular direction to go in. And then Glenn's influence, we started doing weddings because he worked at a local hotel. So we just started doing weddings. And so fast forward up to 2012, I'm still at the bank, we're still doing weddings, and I couldn't do both at the same time. So I was able to leave the bank and do it full time with Glenn's help. And so 2012 full time with flowers, but then we noticed that on a Saturday we would deliver flowers, and if we noticed that a couple needed some help with some random thing, if something was going sideways, we would just step in and help them out for a bit. Not in an annoying sort of way or anything like that. And then we did it so much, and we liked the vibe of that. It's like, hey, why don't we add on coordinating and planning to our packages? So that's when, in probably 2013, I guess, or so, we started doing coordinating for weddings. And so now we do flowers and coordinating.
And we started out offering a day of package or a month of package, and then slowly moving into the full service planning with our clients.
Share a little bit about the difference when a couple hires you for full service versus month of or day of. I know those terms are used interchangeably. Just share a little bit about what the difference is in those options.
We offer two packages. We offer a full service planning, and then we offer a day of coordination that actually starts 30 days out. It's really hard to tell a client, we're going to be your day of planner, day of coordinator, and show up on the day of and have all the information that's going to need to execute the wedding successfully. After they sign a contract with us, whether it's full service or day of, we have a comprehensive meeting with the clients that go over every aspect of what their wedding will look like. If they're a day of client, we will provide them with all the information that they need. We let them ask their questions, and then we send them on their merry way to, go through the whole process. Now, do we tell them that they can't contact us until 30 days out? No. We tell them that if they are stumbled with a question or that they need some advice on something, to feel free to reach out to us, and we'll, kind of guide them. And then with our full service clients, we kind of put the ball in their court. We're happy to hold their hand, be with them through the whole process, whatever they want us to do. There are some of our clients that they sit down with us and they say, we just want to show up on the day of. We have a little bit of a vision, but we just want you to take care of everything. And then we have other clients that they'll hire us for full service and we'll help them along the way, but they want to be very much involved with the day-to-day planning. So we just kind of leave it in their court with what they want to do.
And I will say, too, I work with a lot of your couples that will hire you for a month of service. I will work with them during the planning process and work with them on their vendors. And then as it gets closer, then they come to you and finish everything up. So Do you have a favorite thing, a favorite type of planning that you get to work on with couples?
Either one is fine with us. We just want to do the one that they need for sure. Sometimes they have all of their vendors together, but let's say maybe a mother and her daughter are not seeing eye to eye on certain things. And maybe they'll bring us in as kind of a mediator just a sounding board for them. We have that, but then some people, we just the 30 days prior to, they're happy with that.
So we talked about the 30 days in the month of it starting 30 days out. For the full service, how far in advance do you typically start with that?
I would say most of ours is probably a year out. We don't have any specifications that it can only be, a year or however many months. We do currently have weddings that we've booked for 2024 that are coordinating. So we
And
have
some of those clients are December of 2024. So they've
right. So we just signed a contract with someone December 2024. We're doing the full coordinating. So that's almost a 2-year commitment. But the way it works out is that, we want to make sure at the beginning, work on the budget, find all of the vendors. Once we have all of those pieces in place, we don't have to talk every few weeks. It's like an insurance policy, having us on their side. If something arises, they can pick up the phone, call, text, email us, and ask us questions.
What is the quickest time frame that you have planned a full wedding?
37 days.
37 days. Okay, tell me about it.
That was our first one, wasn't it? One of the first
One
ones.
of the first
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. So it turns out, and this was years ago, it turns out someone was going to hire us to do a May wedding, casually. No contract signed or anything like that. But that was their plan. The couple was going to get married in May. It turns out that they ended up getting pregnant. And they wanted to go ahead and move that timeline up. And so 37 days from the first phone call that we got from the mother of the bride to the day of the wedding, we completed that. It was fun. It's totally doable if you're flexible and, just sign up with the vendors. If you don't have to make a lot of detailed decisions, if you can make a decision in the first place, instead of having to have all three options up and stew over it, it's certainly doable for sure.
And we've been faced with that situation several times since we've started. 37 days was our shortest plan. And then probably the next one was closer to like 46, 47 days. And in both cases, the first case, it was a venue here in Central Kentucky. And we still had to find all the vendors, including catering. The second one was another Central Kentucky venue that had in-house catering, and kind of the stars aligned. The church was able to move things up. The venue was able to move things up, and it just all came together.
So one of the things I want to touch on as well is you mentioned budget. I've tried to be very transparent with the podcast and sharing what is real for here. We tried to do that with Bridal Bliss Magazine as well as putting the dollar figures with the weddings. What do you see the average budget of your couples that do full service? What do you think the average budget is that they're spending now?
So what we're seeing is when we ask them at an initial meeting, how much do you want to spend? If they say 40 or 45,000, then that makes me feel a little bit better. I mean, we have some clients that, go up to 80 and above, and then some that are below 40. But our clients, if they're going to hire us to be a coordinator, they're probably going to have a larger sort of event. And they probably 30 would be the lowest, I would imagine, here in Central Kentucky.
And I think one huge aspect, taking us out of the picture is venue. When you look at your overall budget and, you're spending 20 to 22% of your overall budget on your venue, that may not work out for the budget that you've allotted. We've been faced with that. We've had to have those difficult conversations with our clients. Some of them have said, well, we'll have to try to find the money, or some of them will say, well, we'll have to cut this to accommodate. But being able to have a clear budget when you come into a planning meeting is real important. That way that there's no surprises down the road.
And if I could add to that, having a dollar figure in hand, but actually who's going to be paying for that? Who's contributing to that? Is it the couple a portion? Are parents on both sides maybe giving a portion? And if so, how much is their portion? It gets a little awkward when we're into the process and we haven't nailed down from, let's say, one set of parents, how much are you writing a check for? And so that can be a little bit awkward at that point. We like to address that early on in the process.
I agree with that completely. Whenever I meet with my brides in the beginning, that's one of the things that I always recommend doing. So we talked a little bit about budgets here in the Lexington area. I know you do some in Louisville as well, occasionally, not as often. Do you tend to see that Louisville weddings are more expensive than Lexington weddings?
The difference between the two is that the venues in Louisville tend to have a service fee for catering and rentals. And so that adds a little expense onto it. And sometimes our couples don't budget for that. But again, as long as if we have a couple that comes to us and says we're having a wedding in Louisville, we pretty much tell them up front so there's no surprises of this added cost. But as far as comparison of, say, a fee for a photographer, it's pretty comparable. Fees have gone up all across the board. And so we've realized it. We've had to, have our clients increase their budgets. And for the most part, it's pretty comparable.
Okay. And talking about going different places for weddings, I know I see on social media you were in Houston maybe this year for a wedding. You've been to South Carolina. Do you travel often for weddings?
The Houston wedding, the groom was from Lexington, and the bride was from Houston. And so the groom from a previous wedding that we had coordinated for one of his friends decided, hey, we want Doug and Glenn to help us with the wedding. So we flew down. We did some site visits with them. We went to a bridal show down there. And we just made it a fun event for them, but also for us too, to go down to Houston. The Kia one was it was the third child of a couple that we had done the other two daughters' weddings here in Lexington. So they decided they wanted to do a destination wedding. And when you think of destination wedding, you think of a smaller one. Their destination wedding, I think, had 175 guests. The Houston wedding wasn't really a destination because that's where the bride's from. So that one had, how many guests did that?
300.
That one had about 300 guests, a fair amount from the central Kentucky area.
Okay. And then here in Lexington, do you work with couples that come here as their destination wedding location?
Right. Yeah. So Buffalo Trace is a good example. It attracts a lot of people to Kentucky to have their wedding. And so we've had couples from Michigan that we've worked with, Florida, a lot of Florida couples. They have ties. Most of them have a tie, like the bride or the groom is from Kentucky. But I guess there was one that there wasn't a connection at all. We get to use our knowledge of the local area to help guide them with their wedding.
And do you typically do like phone calls, Zoom? Do you always meet the couple, or do you just sometimes meet them for the first time at the wedding?
We will try to make sure that there are several in-person meetings. A lot of the communications are through email, through Zoom, but we work with them for them to plan trips to come. Usually they're going to be here 2 or 3 times before the wedding. And we're, kind of always in communication with them to make that work. Of course, if we have a client from California, there's always that time zone issue. Currently, we have our last COVID client where finally they're getting married in October, but they're from Australia. And so there's definitely that time zone, 16-hour time zone issue that we've been managing.
Perfect. Well, and two, I do want to touch on the fact that you all also offer flowers because that's originally how you got started.
Mm-hmm.
If a couple has their florist already, but they're interested in hiring you for month of or full service planning, is that something that you will allow as another florist to be a part of the wedding?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The no stipulation there. We'll do flowers or coordinating or both if you want us to.
Okay. And whenever a couple reaches out, what's your consultation process like?
Most of ours are in person if it's convenient for the couple. If they don't live here, then Zoom would be one for sure. Most of the time it's in person. A point to what Glenn was saying earlier about the destination weddings, we've actually had, I can think of 3 weddings off the top of my head that it turns out we were going to be on a trip in their city. 2 of them were in Florida and 1 was in Arizona. And so we actually set up meetings with them on our vacation down in Florida to sit down and talk to them. So 2 of them, we had initial meetings in Florida.
Okay. And they were getting married here.
They're getting married, right.
Okay.
Yeah. They had just reached out to us. And then Glenn, he handles most of the IT communication. So he said, oh, well, we're actually going to be in your area. Do you want to meet while we're down there? So we've done that. I think that's a little unique situation.
It is fun. Well, thank you all so much today for sharing all things planning with me. I always encourage a couple to have at least a day of planner, someone that is going to be there, and usually you're first person there, last person to leave, and just making sure that everything runs smoothly. And of course, if there is money in the budget, absolutely a full service planner. So thank you all for chatting with us today.
Well, great. Thanks for having us today. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
For more information about Simply Love Studio or to schedule your wedding consultation, go to simplylovestudio.com.